Hare Krishna Prabhu. These are my answers to your questions for the podcast about the inner dialogue. What tools can we use to improve our inner dialogue? There are various tools that one can use. One powerful tool is text 15, chapter 17 of the Bhagavad Gita, which explains how to speak. So this can be also applied to inner dialogue, how you talk to yourself. So this verse says, speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and always reciting the Vedic literature. So one can improve one's inner dialogue if he's always reading the Vedic literature and fills his mind with the spiritual content. And if one follows these 4 guidelines also in the verse, so have a truthful inner dialogue, make sure it's pleasing, it's inspiring, make sure it's beneficial for you and for others, and make sure it's not agitating to you and to others. So if you read the scriptures, then we can actually develop better thinking and better self-talk. Is inner dialogue a bad thing? Sometimes people think that inner dialogue is like schizophrenia, that you are talking to yourself, but actually inner dialogue is going on all the time. Some people call it thinking, some people call it self-talk. So inner dialogue is something that is happening all the time within everybody's mind, but why we call it inner dialogue is because there is the soul, and there is the mind. So you are always talking to yourself or talking to your mind, and you are explaining things to yourself, you're asking questions, you're answering questions. So this is how the thought process is going on. So definitely inner dialogue can be bad or good depending on what you choose to think and how do you choose to talk to yourself. Does inner dialogue make you doubt your decisions? Yes, it can. It can make us doubt whether something is good for us or not. And you see, we always ask some questions. What is this about? What is this? What is that about? So yes, it can make us doubt our decisions, but we also make sure that our decisions are beneficial for us and for others. How to overcome inner dialogue of doubt and get things done? Well, one has to see if the doubt has foundation, if there is ground for doubting something. And whatever we do, there is a certain amount of risk involved. So, inner dialogue may be, will this work? Will I succeed? Am I capable? Will others accept something that I do or that I offer? So in one sense, one has to be detached from the results, and this is also the recommendation of the Bhagavad Gita, to be detached of the results. We have a right to perform our duty, but we are not entitled to the fruits of action, as it is said in the Bhagavad Gita. Next question. Is it possible to focus on your work, task without inner dialogue getting in the way? How do you do it? I think we need to train the mind to have this, or to have this conversation within our head, which is always favorable for what we want to do. For example, I always teach that we should use our intelligence more than we usually do. Scientific research says that we are using very little of our intelligence. So there is many techniques, creative thinking, asking questions that can expand our intelligence. So questions actually stimulate intelligence. And instead of inner dialogue getting in the way, inner dialogue can actually help to perform some work or task successfully, creatively, beautifully. What is your strategy? My strategy is that I try to be aware during the day of my thoughts, especially when there is something in the external world that is disturbing. For example, some noise, or something is happening in front of my eyes, or somebody is talking to me in a rude way. I always try to be aware how I react internally, and then I can also choose my excellent reaction. So this is like I'm trying to do for the past 20 years consciously. This is a question of practice. It's a question of practice. And still I fail, but I have improved. For example, from being disturbed for 3 hours to being disturbed for 3 minutes if something happens that is disturbing or annoying. So I try to consciously choose how I talk to myself. I talk to myself in a friendly way, but also I'm not too lenient and also not too strict. And I like to actually talk to myself as a coach, because coach sees you positively, believes in you, believes in your potential, is always encouraging. So that's one way. This is also another tool that you can talk to yourself as a person that you like to spend time with, and as a person that have your best interest at heart. So this is a powerful tool. You can try to talk to yourself as your coach, or as your best friend, or as your caring parent, or as your caring spouse. You can choose. And sometimes you can ask yourself, what would this person say to me? What would my coach say to me? What would Srila Prabhupada say to me in this situation? He is my well-wisher. What would my loving husband or wife tell me in this situation? So these are some more tools. Next question. The problem is not that we have internal speech, but rather that it's the kind of internal speech our mind chooses to engage in. How to control our mind. To me, the greatest success secret is actually practice. If you choose how to do something and you practice, then you get better at it as you practice more and more. It seems that God rewards practice. So how to control our mind? There is so many instructions how to control our mind, but we have to find a way that works for us. For some people, to be very strict with the mind is helpful, but for some people this doesn't work. So for them, there is a recommendation to address the mind as like with my dear mind. Even some acharyas address the mind as my dear brother. And I sometimes advise devotees to say to the mind, my dear mind, please cooperate. Let us cooperate in Krishna consciousness. Let us do some nice service together. And please help me. Please use your ability to influence my decisions to help me to be Krishna conscious and to engage in devotional service. Next question. How does Krishna consciousness help you to cope with negative inner dialogue? Oh, this is a wonderful question. The verse from the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself is helping us to cope with the negative inner dialogue. So, the verse from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 17, text 15, verse 15 that I mentioned, is a great help to develop a spiritual and a positive inner dialogue. Then, if we read Shastra, we will actually develop thinking based on Shastra, and our thinking will be spiritual, and it will be advantageous or beneficial for our spiritual advancement. Then we listen to classes, we read books, and we learn wonderful things. Actually, from Krishna consciousness you get so much universal wisdom. You get so many amazing ideas, so many wonderful thoughts, that you can fill your mind with these things. Next question. What would you recommend to somebody whose inner dialogue is negative? Perhaps he or she is thinking, I am not good at something, therefore I will never be good at it. Yeah, this is also a wonderful question, and it happens a lot when I speak to devotees. When we have sessions, they complain about this. So this is a habit. Negative thinking, a negative inner dialogue, a negative self-talk is a habit. And maybe it was developed because some people were negative with us. They were telling us that you are not good. And now we are thinking I am not good. So if we are not good at something, we can actually practice and get better at this. So if, for example, if you are not good at listening, you can practice listening. You can learn from the experts how to listen, and then you can get better and better. And your attention will be better and better. So, yes, this is something that needs to be practiced. And very important in relation to the negative inner dialogue is that you notice it, that you become aware of it. As soon as you are aware of something, actually you can change it and you can influence it. And therefore I recommend that during the day, stop and observe. What am I thinking? How am I talking to myself? Is this helping my success? What kind of questions am I asking myself? And then choose better quality self-talk. Next question. How to recognize that thoughts do not have any ground in reality? Some thoughts have ground in reality, especially absolute reality. So I would not say that all thoughts do not have any ground in reality. But how to recognize anything, or how to distinguish what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong? For us, the compass is the scriptures, the spiritual books like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. We learn the standard of what is right and what is wrong from these sources, and then we can discriminate. We can see what is what. Next, how to recognize that there is no reason to be afraid of whatever the story our mind accepted to listen to. There is a technique to question the mind, to question the negative talk, to question the limiting beliefs or limiting assumptions. So you can question yourself, you can ask, is this true? Are you absolutely sure that this is true? How do you feel when you think that thought, that negative thought? So you can ask these kind of questions. Or you can ask, what are you assuming that is stopping you from achieving this goal? So you can examine your assumptions, because assumptions block thinking, block creative thinking, intelligent thinking, high quality thinking. Again, how to recognize? One has to have an intelligent conversation with himself, and also one can have intelligent conversations with others. If you have intelligent conversations with others, with other intelligent people, then when you talk to yourself, you will actually have a similar conversation with yourself. So association is so important. If you spend time with those people who are wise, who are sober, who are your well-wishers, who think deeply, who think intelligently, who have knowledge, who have experience, who understand the purpose of life, then gradually you will also think like them, and your self-talk will be similar to theirs. Next question, how to be present and alert? And does that make any difference with inner dialogue? This is exactly what I was talking about. Be present, be alert, be aware, be conscious, observe. This is an excellent question. It makes a huge difference, because the change starts with awareness. Is it possible to tune our mind to listen to a better radio station? Exactly. And all my points about practice have to do with this. So you can practice this tuning in, or tuning our mind to listen to a positive radio station if we listen to positive messages, if we read positive messages, if we read spiritual messages. And also prayer is very much helpful. If we address the Lord, my dear Lord, please help me, or my dear Lord, how can I do this or that? How can I serve you? Then we can address the mind also and ask the mind for cooperation. And we can use these two words, my dear, with others also. The more we use it with others, the more we can use it with when we speak to our own mind. So the question is, how do we want to talk to ourselves all the time? I like to talk to myself as a coach. And now there are things that are not favorable for inner dialogue, like excuses. The mind has a tendency to make excuses, and this is not a part of a high quality inner dialogue. So we don't want to make excuses, we want to make progress, and we want to achieve results. And there is something called inquiry mindset, that questions, high quality questions, change the quality of our inner dialogue. So very powerful tool for a high class inner dialogue is actually excellent questions. Another question we may ask, what is your explanatory style? What does that mean? It means, how do you explain to you whatever happens? And therefore, what is helpful in relation to this is perception according to Shastra Chakshu. I call it sometimes Gita glasses. If you put on Gita glasses and you see everything to the Bhagavad Gita, so the way you explain the world and the events that happen your explanatory style is based on the wisdom of the ages, of the sages throughout the ages, then again, if we speak about inner reactions, how we react, that we become aware that we can choose how we react. Between what happens to us and our reaction, there is a space, and in that space we can ask an amazing question and come to a wonderful conclusion, and in this way every problem can become an opportunity. Some of you know about a choice map, which is published in the book Change Your Questions, Change Your Life. So choice map is also a wonderful tool. It induces us, inspires us, or instructs us to ask learner questions instead of judger questions. So learner questions are questions in the mode of goodness, and judger questions are questions in the mode of passion and ignorance. So to improve our inner dialogue, we want to listen to spiritual and positive messages from others. Listen and read. Sometimes we need to identify whatever thoughts and feelings we are having without getting stuck in them. So being like a neutral observer, this also requires practice. With a choice map, we can expand our ability for observing our own thoughts, feelings and questions, our self-talk, and how we communicate with other people. So we are asking questions of other people, but we have these internal questions, the one we ask ourselves. And most people are only dimly aware of the existence of their internal questions, despite the fact that these questions virtually program our thoughts, feelings, actions, and outcomes. And also, most of us are unaware of how pervasive or influential these internal questions actually are. So to me, the most important tool, or two most important tools for improving our inner dialogue, is the verse from the Bhagavad Gita 17:15, that I already mentioned, and excellent questions. Thank you very much.